Okay.
It's going great. All right, I can talk a little bit better today than I could on Wednesday. And we actually have a computer, so we got some slides and things, so hopefully this will go all right. Looking in the old drawer. Yikes. Okay. You guys survived last night? Yeah.
Which side of like you're talking?
I don't know, like just, Super Bowl, all those kinds of things. Snow, but it's not really like snow, and that kind of helpful with everything. So. Okay. So I'm gonna ask this, and you guys can talk about, what do we have on Wednesday?
Exam one, but it's
Test on Wednesday. Okay, good. The test will be here. It will be in person, and it will be paper and pencil. Okay, you don't take things on Canvas, you don't take it with your computer. Despite, as much grading as that's gonna cost me, we're gonna do this the old school way. Those things. Okay, so we can get through everything that I want to today. That shouldn't be a problem. All right, and so there is a study guide that is posted. There are example short answer questions that are on there. Okay, we'll talk a little bit at the end today about kind of how I ask questions, how that stuff operates, and then we can try. I don't have clearance from the boss lady yet, but I can probably speak, and we can try to do a little like a Zoom study session or something tomorrow, if that would be of some benefit to you guys. What I will try to do on Wednesday, okay, we will see. Probably it's not gonna happen. Just, I will try to be here a little bit earlier on Wednesday. A lot of that depends upon kind of how Ellis behaves in the morning. But I'll try to get here a little bit early, and then I'll have all the tests printed and everything, and that way if you guys want a little bit of extra time, you can go ahead and get started. Okay. But we'll talk more about that kind of towards the end. We are gonna have a quiz at the end today. I just got that on there and fired up. We will be over this controller core stuff, and we should be good to go. Okay. Any burning questions before we get started today? No, we're gonna be very interactive. Okay. You guys are gonna have to get up, you're gonna do things, you're gonna move around. It's gonna be great. Okay. So to recap, we have basically covered like 3 things so far that determine how much force we're gonna get out of the muscle. Somebody name for me one of those 3. I promise you, all of these things will be on the test on Wednesday. Size.
Motor unit improvement.
Motor unit recruitment. What's the third? Probably going to fall under recruitment. Pennation. Good. How big is your muscle? What's the angle that the fibers connect to the tendon at? And then can you turn on and use? Can you recruit close to sort of all of the muscle that you have? Some of us are not very good at that. Okay. Some of us are not very good. So those are our 3. Okay. Very, very good. Now we finished last Wednesday. I think it's all kind of a haze. Ended up having strep throat. I guess technically I still have strep throat. Not contagious. I've been on antibiotics for like almost 5 days now. With all of this. But when we talk about recruitment order, okay, when you talk about we're going to turn on certain motor units, there's a very distinct order. The smallest motor units, the neuron that connects to the fewest number of fibers, always gets turned on first during concentric and isometric contraction. Those smallest motor units are made up of slow twitch fibers. And so the consequence of that is I'm doing a low force contraction, like walking. Okay. I'm doing low force contraction, like writing or typing. I'm going to recruit small motor units first, a low amount of force, but they're these very fatigue resistant types. Okay. So I can do it over and over and over and over again. And we all probably just get this intuitively. When you do things that are not very intense, when you do things that don't require a lot of force, you don't fatigue very fast. Part of that's because you're always recruiting these slow twitches. Okay. As I need more and more and more force, I recruit more motor units. They get larger. Their fiber type begins to shift into 2A and then into 2X at the very, very end. I'll show you guys a graph that I think will kind of fix all of this. Okay. Why do slow motor units get recruited first? It's the physics of electricity. Okay. It's called the Henneman size principle of motor unit recruitment because it takes a smaller neural or action potential input from the motor cortex to cause a slow motor neuron because it's smaller to reach its threshold potential. Okay. Takes a smaller input. It takes a larger input to make the larger motor neurons that have larger motor units that are fast switch to be able to deploy. So in that way, you got to really want to use those fast switches. Okay. This lets us recruit slow fatigue resistant fibers more often. And as in combination with what I'm going to show you guys next, what this lets us do is it lets us, and this in some ways separates us from some other animals, is that it allows us very fine control of force production. Very fine, very small gradations. So you can write, you can knit or sew, okay? You can play the cello or the piano. We can do these very, very low force, finely controlled sort of contractions. And if we recruited the largest ones first, right, I have no ability to get 1% of maximal force. I'm only ever going to start by getting 7% or something like that. Okay. So you cannot have small gradations in force at very low levels of force. Okay. And that's going to be one of the advantages of doing it this way, which in some ways then lets us be and do the things that we do. We can draw, we can color, right? We can do all sorts of these kind of fine motor skills. Okay. So we're going to take a brief step away from why is this not going? Okay. We'll take a brief step away from big picture stuff. I'm gonna focus down on the functioning of a couple of enzymes and pumps that we've already talked about. But I want to reintroduce these things in a couple of concepts because then it will help explain a larger picture phenomenon that we're going to see, okay, called nodal awakening. Okay, so once we turn a motor unit on, okay, once it's on, now do this to yourself. Do this to yourself, not our neighbor. My first thought was tap your neighbor. Let's not do that. To yourself, put your hand up, okay, and just go like this. Just once, ping, okay. That's one action potential. We've turned on and recruited the motor unit, okay? Ping, and something else will happen after all of that, okay? It's going to make more sense in just a second, right? When that happens, one action potential, ping, motor unit recruitment, that whole pathway we talked about, down the axon. Calcium comes in, acetylcholine release, binds to its receptor, right? Action potential in the sarcolemma, down the T tubules. DHP receptor, ranitidine receptor, calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum, binds to troponin, opens the binding site, and then we get force production across. Okay. So, what you guys can see, what I'm showing right here is something called the active state. The active state is a time period. Okay. Action potential fires, turns on the motor neuron. After we go all the way down our pathway, we release the calcium out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. There is a finite amount of time. I release it, it floats around, it binds to the troponin, it does its thing, and then the circa pump on the sarcoplasmic reticulum pulls it back inside. Okay, pulls it back inside. If there's one action potential and only one action potential, something looks like this. On this top tracing, you see membrane potential. This is the action potential traveling along the sarcolemma or the T2. Okay, so you will note I get my action potential. There's a very small time lag. Right? It must travel. Calcium gets released here. Calcium up, right? In the red box, calcium up. Then, as it reaches towards its peak, it's released. Circa's going to start pulling it back down, and it comes back down. And then what you note down here is if we measure force in the muscle. So these are cellular events. This is whole muscle event, right? We have to release the calcium, a little bit of a lag. We get cross bridges, a little bit of a lag. Then we get force production. Calcium comes back down, and then another lag, and then eventually tension comes back down as well. Okay. That red box shows what's called the active state. The amount of time that calcium is outside of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, where it can plausibly interact with troponin to allow for the binding site to be open to get cross bridges. That's called the active state. Okay. This is what's going on, okay, with our signaling molecules. And then what you see down here from a tension standpoint is what's going on with the muscle. So the size, the length of the active state determines force production. In total, how much force am I going to get? How many cross bridges can I get? But also then how quickly the calcium goes up and how quickly the calcium comes back down on the front and the back end determine how quickly force can get turned on, and how quickly force can get turned off. I'll show you guys that in a minute. Okay. So that's what's going on with the active state. Now, I think I told you guys this the other day. In single fiber preps, I cut muscle fibers out of you, I put them on a petri dish, bathe them in various things, I bathe them in caffeine, and I get a larger peak and a longer duration of the active state if I apply caffeine onto a muscle fiber. Okay. Now, in a tube, like a petri dish, this is great. But the concentration of caffeine that does this would kill you. It's like 80 Red Bulls worth of caffeine. Okay. Well, you're all probably thinking, I can do that. I'm not hard. Right? You take that down. No. Maybe with the Red Bulls you could. Okay. We see a similar thing in us from caffeine. Like 1.5 Red Bulls worth. Right? One strong cup of coffee's worth. And I can probably get more force production out of y'all's muscles. Okay. But it's from a slightly different mechanism. It's not from directly releasing more calcium from the randian receptor, which is what this kind of happens. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys this next slide. And again, this is a thing you need to know on its own. But also, if we understand this, then the next thing that I show you will make even more sense. Okay, so try to stay with me here. There are what we call contractile properties of skeletal muscle. These are things we can measure in the lab, okay, in you guys right now. Okay, come to my lab, I slap some electrodes on you, and we give you one action potential's worth of electrical stimulation. Okay, come tomorrow, we can do this. Come this afternoon, we can do it. Okay, it's kind of fun. But what you're going to see here is things that describe what is happening. Okay, these are what we call a force tracing. And so you can see a force tracing from one action potential's worth of stimulation on a muscle in the eyelid, from the first dorsal interosseous muscle to that one moves the index finger, not the thumb, right? From your soleus, and then from a muscle down in your foot that I don't really know what the name of it is, but you can see the point here. We can measure things when you generate force, okay? And if you guys we go down to the men's and women's basketball facility, go down to the Griffin complex. They have them almost every day. They come in, they have what's called a force plate on the floor. They jump on the force plate and they measure something very, very similar. Okay, they're measuring of the whole muscle. This is kind of whole body. This is just here. The ability to turn on how quickly we begin to get force is called either time to peak tension or rise time. Okay, there are two measures of the same thing. Time to peak tension is going to be from zero, no force, completely relaxed, to peak force. So it's a time. Rise time basically is a measure of the slope. So you take 80%, 20% to 80%, and you calculate slope. It tells us the same thing. Okay. How quickly from the time we release calcium and begin to get cross bridges, how quickly are we gonna start to get tension in that muscle and get things turned on? This is a measure of myosin ATPase function. This is a measure of how fast your fiber type is. Okay. We could have every one of you stand up right now and stand on a force plate and you squat down and you jump, okay? And we can trace from the moment you start, okay? We can trace how quickly force is going to get turned on. And that's called a time to peak tension. It could be that or a rate of force development. People that have faster fiber types turn force on faster. So when you look at these, you see how the eye muscle has a steeper slope than, say, your soleus, right? Your eyes, those muscles that control your eyelids, about as fast as any muscle in your body. Soleus is, other than the diaphragm, about as slow as any muscle in your body, given within kind of what your range is. Okay. We then can look at the backside of this force trace. And we calculate something called half relaxation time or rate of force relaxation. So it's from the peak halfway back down to zero. And it's sort of the same thing, but this tells us about how quickly calcium ATPase takes calcium back into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay. So the faster you can turn the muscle off, also the faster your fiber, because the calcium pump works better, it's faster. Okay. So we can make measures in the lab, or on some instances, we can make whole body measurements just on sort of how quickly you can turn your muscles on and guesstimate relative fiber type percentage. Okay. Now, I want you all to know what these things are just because. But what I'm going to show you next is the application of these things, right, in the broad context of how we turn on a muscle and how we control force production. All right. So here's what I'm going to show you guys. Show you guys a couple of graphs, okay? What I'm showing you here, we talked about recruitment, okay? Recruitment or on and off of a motor neuron is in many ways an analog sort of state. It's either on or it's off, okay? It's on or it's off. There's no in between. Now, once it's on, once we've recruited the motor neuron, we have an ability in the on state to actually have it be on a little bit or a lot, okay? think of recruitment as the lights are on or the lights are off. Okay? It's either on or it's off. What I'm going to show you here is something called neural rate coding. Rate coding is once it's on, it's like a dimmer switch on the light. The light's on, but it can be on where it's kind of dim, or it can be as bright as it can possibly be. Okay? So what you guys can see, this is a recorder. We took a needle, we jabbed the needle into your finger, okay, kind of right here in the first dorsal interosseous muscle, and that needle records the action potentials from one motor unit. It's called needle EMG. It's not super pleasant. Okay, to have that done. And what they've done then is to push with your finger at a very low level of force, at some kind of in-between levels of force, and then as hard as you can possibly push with your index finger. Okay? Each line on here, the vertical lines, represent one action potential. Okay? Time moves along on the x-axis. So what you see is at low force, I get a few action potentials over time. As the force goes up, I get more and more and more action potential. So here's how this works. Back to our other example, okay? Here's why you might want to touch your name. Hand up, okay? Tap. So one action potential. Ping. Okay? Now, make it look like the top one. So it's like ping, 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 okay? Now we're going to do the very, very bottom one. Maximal. So it's just ping, 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 ping. Okay? Very, very fast. All right. Now, here's my question for you guys. Okay? And this goes back. It's a slightly different concept, but this is going to go back to this is a sort of a sensory sort of thing. Do you guys think you could do this fast enough? That it basically feels like you're just pressing on your hand all the time? Right? That you can almost can't tell if there's a time where it's not touching it because it's going so fast. It's a little bit of a different concept. It's what we're going to actually see from a calcium. Okay? So this is called rate coding. What we do when we find rate, it's how much time and then how many action potentials are we getting over time. So in the top one, let's just say this is 10 seconds. Okay? It's a 10-second contraction. I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 action potentials in 10 seconds. Divide those two things together. Okay? So I'm getting 1.7 action potentials per second. Okay? We're not even count one of them up. I don't know what it is. It's a lot. It's a whole lot more. Okay? It's probably more like 10 or 15 or something like that. Okay? So action potentials per second, we give that a unit, we call it hertz. Electrical signals per unit time are expressed as hertz, H-Z. Okay? So we code, or we rate code, because the nervous system signals with action potentials, its only ability to do things is it's on or off, and then it's how many times am I getting signals to turn on, right? It does not have an ability to gradate things other than in that way. Either get an action potential or you don't, and then once you get an action potential, it's how many am I getting in a given amount of time. Okay? So I recruit the neuron, and then I alter the rate coding, and by doing this, I can get a little bit more force out of an individual motor neuron without having to turn a second one on. So now let me show you how and why and what this looks like in actual practice. Okay. What I am showing you guys here is something called a force frequency, or a force firing frequency, or a force rate coding curve. This is again something that we can do. You can come to my lab, we can do this today. Okay. But the y-axis here is maximal strength, maximal ability of that muscle to generate force. The x-axis is what is the firing frequency? So how many action potentials am I giving you in a given amount of time? Okay, is it slow, ping, 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 ping? Is it faster, ping, 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 ping? Okay, and we're going from essentially about 5 hertz out to about 70 hertz. It's gonna look very, very obvious, right? As firing rate goes up, what happens to force production? It increases. Good. Is it linear? Is it a straight line? No. Okay. What happens at the top?
Kind of like plateaus, sort of.
It plateaus. Okay. What does it mean that it plateaus?
Can't generate any more force.
I can't generate any more force. So if I increase the firing rate beyond 70, because it's flattened out, am I going to get more force? No. Okay. No. The fact that it flattens tells us that something has happened in the underlying sort of signaling pathway. It's not going to let us get any more force. What is force dependent on? Here's a good question for Wednesday. Cross bridges. If force doesn't go up anymore when I increase firing rate, what does that mean about cross bridges? I formed the maximum amount. At some point, I get enough action potentials that if I give you any more, I still can't get more cross bridges. Okay. Let's work backwards. This is that critical thinking that they tell you guys about. Okay. If force is dependent upon cross bridges, and we can all agree that at some point I cannot form, I formed all the cross bridges that I can. What's the signal that allows a cross bridge to be formed? It's an action potential, but let's go between the action potential and the actual formation of the cross bridge. Let's go back one step in our giant signaling path. I have a cross bridge. What happens right before I get a cross bridge? Calcium binds to troponin. So if I can't get any more cross bridges, we have to assume, right, I've bound as much calcium as possible onto the troponin, so all of my binding sites are open. Okay. Now go back one more step. If I've bound all the calcium to troponin, what does that tell me about how much calcium I've released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum? All of them. Almost all of them. Right? This is why I want us to know that whole big long signaling pathway. Because when one thing happens, when we observe something in one place, it tells us about what is happening in those signaling steps. Okay? And so what happens here, very, very simply, is as I increase firing rate, I get more and more calcium to be released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum up to a certain point. And at some point then, it's all gone. Okay? It's all gone. And then force can't go up anymore. It does not matter how many action potentials your brain sends to that muscle or how many we send artificially in the lab to that muscle. That's it. Calcium's all out. We're getting as many cross bridges as we can. That's all the force we're going to get out of that muscle. Okay? You control force production, one, by how many motor units you recruit, but two, by for every unit that's recruited, by how many action potentials you send to it and how much calcium you release at any one given point in time. And that is how you know you can write and make your letters and press a little bit harder in this instance, but not in another. Okay? And you never think about that, do you? I mean, you may think about, oh, I need to kind of curve it this way or do a little bit harder or something like that. I'm like holding myself. I'm like, oh, I gotta switch. You don't really think about, okay, 3 more action potentials because I'm starting to get tired. I need a little bit more force. But we do it anyway. Okay? It's why Now, we're going to use an example and demonstrate this functionally how this happens. I need about 10 people to come up with it. Can I get 10? I will just pick 10. One of the people that are sitting in the front row were like, I'll come, it's fine. All right, I need y'all right down here, right down here in the front. So we got about half of what I need. I need about 5 more. Three more, I will pick 3. Okay. Sweet, thank you guys. Okay. Here we go. All right. Okay, my guy on the end, what's your name?
Grant.
Grant.
Yes.
Grant, you are the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and actually you are the ryanodine receptor.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, ryanodine, Grant the ryanodine receptor. You gonna dress up for Halloween?
Kaylin,
Caleb, you, okay, you are a molecule of troponin.
Okay.
Okay? Everybody in between them, you guys are all calcium molecules. So all my calcium molecules go on the other side of Grant, please. Okay? All right. Now, here's what we're gonna do. Okay? Grant, woman next to you, your name is?
Olivia,
Olivia. Okay. Here's what's gonna happen. Grant, I'm going to be the dihydropyridine receptor. I'm DHP. Okay? T-tubule says contract. I tap Grant. I should have asked. Grant, may I tap you on the shoulder? Okay. I tap Grant on the shoulder. We activate and open up ryanodine. Okay. One action potential. Tap. Now, is it okay, Olivia, if he taps you on the shoulder? You tap Olivia, this way. Go. Okay, stop. I need one more person. Forgot, I need one more person. Somebody, anybody. Okay, we'll just stand here. It'll be awkward for a minute. Okay, Lily's coming back. Okay. All right. Lily, I want you to come and stand right here. You are the circa pump. So, we've released our calcium molecule. What does Lily need to do now? This calcium molecule, gonna come down a little closer. It's trying to go to here. If it goes and it just tap her on the shoulder. Okay, and you gotta like spin because you're a proponent, right? And they're changing shape. We open the binding side, we can get force. Okay, what should Lily be trying to do as soon as this calcium molecule is gonna release?
back in.
Right, try to pull her back over there. Okay, grab her, take her back. Okay,
Sorry.
take her back, take her back, take her back, take her back. Okay, right, now. We'll do this again in sequence, okay? Tap. And then I'm gonna get, Olivia's like, nope, I'm done. I'm going to the end. We release the calcium molecule, right? There's this lag as we're trying to get over here. It's gonna get us our rise time. We're gonna get force production. Then once this has happened, Lily's trying to pull it back. Okay? Force gets turned off. Okay? We've stopped contracting. You guys understand the sequence? Okay?
Calcium always.
Not always. Sometimes Lily will be very greedy and will not let the calcium get over it. Okay? Okay? So now, here's what we're gonna do. Okay? I'm gonna go tap, 1 go. Now, tap again, now 2. Lily's trying to do the same thing. You working the same way. It's now, Lily go again. It's now taking longer for Lily to pull all of the calcium back. Okay, so when there's calcium in this space for a longer period of time, there's a greater chance that it will bind to troponin and allow cross bridges to be formed. Hence, more force. Okay. Now, okay, at some point here, I'm going to go tap, go, tap, go, tap, go, tap, go. tap, go. Tap. Tap, 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 tap. Okay, stop. Okay, at some point, right? There's only so fast, Lily can only go so fast. Okay, there's only so much troponin. Okay, they can be bound by calcium. So there is some point at which, okay, no matter how many more times the tap here and release calcium, we have overwhelmed what Lily can do. Okay. And we've saturated the amount of calcium that can touch the troponin. Okay. Just imagine though that there's actually thousands of calcium molecules, thousands of troponin, thousands of calcium ATPase molecules, but this is the way that it's all going to work. Okay. So if I want to change this, if I want to make this curve look different, okay, your name is
I'm Skyline.
Skylar, you go help Lily. We now have double the calcium ATPase. Now we're a fast twitch muscle, okay? So now we have twice the ability to get the calcium back over here. So now I've got to go twice as fast at releasing the calcium before we can sort of overwhelm what's going on. Does that make sense? Okay. What if we make the sarcoplasmic reticulum bigger? We put even more calcium over here. Okay. Then it increases our capacity to send it this direction. Okay? This is what's going on every time we send an action potential from the brain down, okay? And we release calcium. Okay, thank you guys for being good sports. Y'all may go sit.
Is the circle basically the calcium ATP?
Circa is calcium ATPase. Yes, Circa is the enzyme that pulls all of us back. Okay?
Really, that's not.
Okay. What I just showed you guys is illustrated here. Okay? It's illustrated here. You can see what we call a twitch. So one action potential, calcium's released, right? Force goes up, force goes down, rise time, relaxation time, time for big tension here. Where we start sending more action potentials, right? So I go and I get some calcium, it starts to get pulled back in, another action potential, more calcium, right? More and more. The process of more calcium being released and swamping the calcium ATPase so that we get a longer period to interact with troponin and therefore more force is called summation. It's called summation. Okay. We are summing the calcium from the action potentials together. Okay. At some point, we will get enough action potentials that we will release enough calcium to where, in essence, calcium ATPase is completely swamped. It cannot do anything. We saturate all of our troponin. And there's no relaxation period at all in all of this. And we get a contraction where it comes up and it just stays this way until we turn everything on. This is called a complete tetanus. Okay, a complete tetanus or a fused tetanus. Okay. And this is how we use rate coding to alter force production. So you recruit a motor unit, and then once it's recruited, you alter its firing rate ever so slightly up and down, and you can get a little bit more or a little bit less force out of that one motor unit. So in slow twitch fibers, because the calcium ATPase is slower, you reach a fused tetanus between maybe 25 and 30 hertz, or 25 and 30 action potentials per second. In a fast twitch muscle fiber, it might be 50 or 60 or 70 action potentials. Okay? So in this way, the fiber type match, structure and parts function. And there's some consequences for that that are really kind of beyond the scope of this class, but that's how this works. This is my single favorite graph in all of neuromuscular physiology. Not because it looks like an old Atari game that I played when I was little called Missile Commander. But what you see here, every line represents one motor unit. Okay? We have force production on the x-axis. We have firing rate on the y-axis. And so what it shows is when I need a little bit of force, I turn on one motor unit. Okay? One motor unit at 8 hertz. 8 action potentials per second. When I need a little bit more force, I do not recruit a second motor unit. I just turn up the firing rate. So I've gone from 8 to 12. Then I go to 16. But at some point, I need enough force that I cannot really increase firing rate sufficiently on the one motor unit that's on. So I turn on a second motor unit. So I've got one, it's firing at about 16 or so. Here then I get a second one. The second one turns on back at 8. And as I need more and more force, I go one on, ramp up firing rate, not enough. A second, the second one's at a lower rate. First one's still on at that higher rate. Then I ramp it up in the second one, not enough. A third, okay, so on and so forth. And this is what we do to precisely control all force production during contraction. Okay, this is how the motor cortex in the nervous system controls force production. Motor unit on, and then adjust the firing rate within that motor unit. And if it can't get enough force by adjusting it, now recruit another motor unit. And turn it up. Okay, not enough, another one, turn it up. Okay. We do this without ever thinking about it. Okay. You never think, okay, one motor unit, no, I need 4 to do this, right? You never do that. You just do it, okay? Because we've learned over time, sort of just by practice, doing these kinds of things. Okay? All right. Questions about all of that?
Is tennis just like synonymous with like all of the troponin, the exaggerated?
Yes, absolutely. Tetanus would be synonymous with all of the troponin genes, sure. Okay? Okay. I'm going to go slightly out of order on a thing here, guys. So let me do this. Turn this off for a second. Okay, everybody stand up. We're going to step out of the realm of size and neural sort of recruitment and firing rate on force production. All right, everybody, what you make? Okay, patient name. Okay. Now, tell your neighbors this. If we were not all the way over here in the nail, I would have brought some weights. If you had to lift weights, you're gonna do a curl, okay? I know it's when you do it to Monday, we can do bench, right? Bench stands, right? We're doing a curl. I'm gonna give you as much weight as you can possibly curl up, okay? Where from here at full extension up here to full flexion, where through there are you the weakest? Where are you gonna get stuck as you try to pick something up? Where's that gonna happen? Tell your name. Like talking through, showing, talk about it.
Century, right, short and the whole time.
Okay. Who thinks they got it? Where are you the weakest? Where are you gonna get stuck if we're doing curls today? Okay, here, where? Full extension?
Yeah.
You're the weakest all the way down here, okay? Where are you the strongest? Like at what point, basically, if I get past this point, I'm like, I'm good. I'm gonna make it, okay? About right here, probably. Some of you are looking at me like, we don't throw Dr. Black, I don't know, right? It's fine, it's okay. It's okay, all right? Now, here's the question, why? No, right, you're weakest closer to full extension. Why are you weaker here than here? The muscles fully stretch. Okay? I'm really blow y'all's mind in a second. Okay, you're correct. It's as stretched as we can make it, right? Your bicep's not a good example because you can only, unless any of y'all are double jointed, you can only extend your elbow to a certain extent.
Wait a second.
Right? Like, do this, like, put it down. Let's see, put it down. Does it feel like your bicep is really really taut and stretched there? Not like your hamstring if you're gonna do, so the bicep's not great. We are closer to full extension, we are stretched. What about here? Short. In the middle, we're somewhere else, okay? Why does that have an effect on force? It clearly does. Question now becomes why? Where does force come from? Cross bridges. Okay? Force comes from cross bridges. So here's my question. Do I have less cross bridges here than I do here?
Yes.
I know, I'm freaking you guys out.
It's that
I mean, you may have a few less, but the muscles are the same size. The sarcomeres are the same size. There's just as much actin and myosin, assuming you can turn them all on, same cross bridges, and yet I get less force. Okay? All right, we'll sit, we'll do my question, and I'll give you guys the real answer. Okay, what you got? Something about the forearm being in line, start.
Yeah, so your elbow, I'm not in line and you're not, so like if you're here, then your force is like perpendicular to where the fulcrum is.
You're close. We're gonna get to that in just a second. Biomechanic, literally. This is backwards. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys something because I may have just lied to y'all on purpose. Okay? What you guys see here, okay, is something called the sarcomere. Please remember this. The sarcomere length tension relationship. Sarcomere length tension. Force production at short sarcomere lengths, moderate sarcomere lengths, long sarcomere lengths, right? A little bit of force, maximal force, very, very little force. Here's what's going on at actin and myosin. Remember I told you guys the cross bridges weren't different here versus here? Well, if we look at the sarcomere length tension relationship here, stretch. I stretch the sarcomere out, I stretch the muscle, and I can stretch it enough to where the actin and myosin are not going to overlap each other in the sarcomere, so I cannot form a cross bridge. So I don't get any force. Somewhere in the middle, the most overlap, so I get more force, and then at very, very short length, so way up when it's very, very short, and the myosin and the actin, the myosin can only bind so much because the actin slid all the way past each other. There's just not that many binding sites left. Okay? We observe this. If you take a muscle fiber out of you and we stretch it around, we can make this happen. That's why it's called the sarcomere length tension relationship. Okay? So in theory, if you stretch a sarcomere enough or you shorten it enough, you can reduce the number of cross bridges that can be formed and therefore reduce the amount of force production. Okay? However, this happens in the lab. It happens in isolated fibers. It does not happen very much in very many sarcomeres in any of your muscles during everyday activities. Okay? At full extension at the elbow, 95% of your sarcomeres look like this. They're right here in the middle in this optimum range. They're not that stretched out. There's a few that are. There's a few that are way down here, but most of them are here. When I squat and I'm way down stretched, okay, in my quads, same thing. But it looks the same, right? Very, very stretched quad, weaker, stronger, stronger, stronger. The quads are kind of weird because of things that do that, okay? So this is real, but it doesn't really happen very much. I want you all to understand the mechanics of it, but it doesn't happen very much in us. So now you're saying, okay, well, Dr. Black, you sort of lied to us. We don't really lie to you right now. But we do agree that I'm weaker at full extension. I'm stronger in the middle, and maybe I get a little bit weaker up at the top again. It looks like that. So if it's not the sarcomere length changing, what the hell's going on? And it's this. It's physics. It's biomechanics. Okay? So what we see when we do things is actually, I'm going to call it in vivo. In vivo means in the whole animal. What we see is not a true sarcomere length tension relationship. We see a force, or what we should call torque, okay, because this is an angular movement, a torque joint angle relationship, right? I'm probably not at 180 degrees of elbow flexion. It's not perfectly that way, okay? But I'm, at 170 or something. Now I'm at 90. Now I'm at like 45 or something there. What we see, okay, is a change in this. And this is called an effective lever arm or a moment arm, okay? Your muscle produces force. That force is transmitted to the tendon. The tendon pulls on the bone, and where that tendon inserts is a certain distance from the axis of rotation at my elbow, right? My elbow rotates here, my tendon inserts down here, so there's this distance, okay? And it creates a level. Most of our muscles these are like second class or something levers. They're actually very inefficient because the insertion is on the wrong side of the joint, okay? So I'm actually losing force by where it inserts. It's not a big deal. But is it easier? You guys got to get leverage on something. Is it easier if I've got a bar and I'm trying to pry something up to be close to where the fulcrum is or farther away? You want a big long bar and you're going to press out here, or do you want to try to press right next to where it is? Where are you going to get more force? Farther away. So if your insertion in the bicep is farther down your forearm compared to where the axis of rotation at the elbow is, your moment arm or your lever arm is bigger. So you take force from the muscle, multiply it by the length of the lever arm, and that gives you a thing called torque, which is the actual, when you pick up 10 pounds, it's really not pounds. You got to convert it to a thing called newton meters. What you're generating is 10 pounds of torque to be able to move. Okay? And that's what's going to happen with this. Okay? So as we move from extension to the middle to full flexion, is the anatomy as the joint articulates, the distance from the insertion to the moment arm actually changes. Okay, at full extension, the distance is short. As I move up here, it becomes a little bit longer. And as I get towards full flexion, it gets shorter again. So the moment arm or the lever arm goes from short to long, back down to short. And then when I apply that from a force production, I'm going to get less force, more force, less force. Okay. So the muscle generates force based upon its size, based upon the amount of motor units you can recruit and the firing rate applied to those motor units and its spination. But when we move, we take that force from the muscle and we have to apply it across a joint. And so when that happens, the moment arm in the joint acts. Your muscle's the same size as mine. You recruit and you fire exactly like me. But you have a longer moment on. Your anatomy is a little bit different. You have a longer moment on. You can lift more weight than me because of all. Okay? It's the application of that force. That's it. Okay. I'll do one more thing, and then we're gonna run up against it on time, and I apologize for that. Okay. And we're gonna talk about something, and I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna show it to you on this graph. There's another thing you have to consider, and it's called the force velocity relationship. Okay. So size matters, recruitment matters, firing rate matters, pination matters. Lever arm at the joint matters. The other thing that matters is how fast are you wanting to do something? Okay? Everybody stand up. Basically, at this point, I think I'm just gonna swear off the quiz and I'll give all you guys a 5 on the quiz. Okay? Because this is more important for our test. All right, now, back to our curls. Okay? Everybody curl as fast as you possibly can. Go, fast, go. All right, some of y'all are not participating, I do appreciate that. Okay, we're all gonna be humiliated together. Okay, fast as you can go. Now, stop. Okay, pick up your backpack. Put as many of your things in your backpack as you can. That you don't need for note taking. Now, same thing. Same thing, guys. Curl your backpack as fast as you can. All right, stop. I'm so fucking mad. When were you going fastest? Without the backpack? We all agree that? Now, give your neighbor your backpack. So now you're holding 2 backpacks. Only half of you are gonna do this. All right. Now, curl 2 backpacks as fast as all in the same thing. Okay, stop, put that down. I saw that already better in my head when I thought about it this morning. Okay, I'm gonna come out of that. Okay. Now. You all agree with me that you went the fastest when it was just your arm, right? And then when you had 1 backpack, it was slower. And then for those of you that got to try to lift 2, was it slower still? Okay. What if I gave you a weight that was really, 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 really close to the most weight that you could lift? How fast would that be? Really freaking slow. Okay. What you guys have shown is something that looks like this. Now, all I want you guys to look at is this line right here. I apologize, I need to find a better time. Okay. What I'm showing you is this is velocity here. Ignore what you see in the slide before. It will fuck you up on the test. Okay. Ignore the previous slide, just this one. It's the same thing, but the axes are flipped. This one's better. Okay. Velocity here, force production on the Y. Okay. This point in the middle at 0 means there's no movement velocity. 0 says isometric contraction. Okay. Where the velocity is positive on the right side of the graph, that's a concentric contraction. We are accelerating in the shortening direction. And then here as we go left, it's the same velocity, but it's going the opposite direction. So it's going in the negative direction, or we're accelerating as we lengthen the muscle. So eccentric on the left side of the axis in the middle. Isometric is right at 0. No velocity, no movement, isometric. And then the right side of the graph is the concentric contraction. What you guys just did was this. Force production is up and down, so as I go faster and faster concentrically, force falls off, force goes down, okay? Isometric contractions generally, not always, not exclusively, but generally, isometric contractions can generate more force than any form of concentric contraction. I could give you a weight and you can hold it right here at 90 degrees as you curl. You can hold more than you can pick up, okay? As I ask you to go faster and faster, the amount of weight that you can move at that speed decreases. Okay? So, let's go back to the start again. What determines force production?
Cross bridges.
Good. Y'all get it yet? Okay, cross bridges. If when I go fast, I can't lift as much weight, what has happened to the number of cross bridges?
Wait, you.
I'm going fast, force production is going down. So what's happened to the number of cross bridges I can form? They decrease. Okay, good. Why would cross bridge number decrease the faster I go? The muscle's the same size. Okay, there's the same total number of cross bridges there. I can recruit all of them or not. I can send the same rate coding. My moment arm doesn't change. Everything is the same, except I'm going faster. So why would fast mean less cross bridges? Not enough time for a cycle. Very close. Very close. Okay. To go fast, I have to lock in, right? Shorten, let go. Go back, lock in again, go, let go. I have to go fast. I have to cycle fast. Okay. Isometric contractions, just form the cross bridges, hold on. Very little cross bridge cycle. Very little letting go. To go fast, I gotta let go a bunch, right? Because I'm moving very quickly through this range of motion. And so what happens during fast concentric contraction is that at any instant in time, there are fewer cross bridges formed because more of them have had to break off to be able to let you keep shortening that muscle. Okay. So when I go slower, at any point in time, more of them can be bound because I don't have to break them as fast. It's kind of a difficult concept, but that's what goes on. Now, let's assume it isometric, they grab on, they hold on, boom, I'm done, I got more force. That's why I get more force isometrically. I don't have to break them off. Then you're gonna look over here, during an eccentric contraction, and you say, Dr. Black, what the hell is going on? What does that graph show us happens as I go faster eccentrically? What happens? Force goes up and then what?
More.
From a force perspective. Is force changing? It goes up a little bit, does it change? No. I go fast eccentrically, and force is the same. I do not lose force during fast eccentric contraction. And then you're like, well, how do I get more force eccentrically than I do isometrically or concentrically? And again, it comes back down to cross bridges. During the eccentric contraction, cross bridges engage, and they don't have to break. We do not have to do a cross bridge cycle. They engage and they just hold on. So if they're not breaking, we don't lose force. Where am I getting the extra force? Most of us can get another 10 to 20% eccentrically compared to what we can do concentrically. So if you can pick up 100 pounds, you can probably reasonably lower 115 or 120. Why? Where's the extra force coming from? It's not from cross bridges. Where is it from? elasticity of the connective tissue. Okay? Elasticity of the connective tissue. So there's a resistance to stretching from the collagen in ligaments, tendons, and the endomysium, the perimysium, and the epimysium. Okay? That's what we get. That's why you can do more of these. So go to the gym today, impress your friends. Make them a bet. I can bench more than you. Or I can bench more than usual, but just have them pull that off the bench and say, I'm watching, I'm gonna lower it down. Right? Just do the eccentric to that, right? And you guys will see there's a time and a place for doing eccentric training because it gets us more force. Okay? We don't lose force as we go fast. So there's some real use to doing heavy eccentric exercise, fast eccentric exercise as part of training. Okay? Any kind of a sport where you have to change direction really fast, which is basically all sports, maybe not sprinting, right? You're 100-meter sprinter doesn't change direction. But I've got to go and I got to cut this way, so I can go back over there. Guess what? I have to eccentrically, very quickly, stop myself and then go back the other direction. So this is going to become very, very useful from a sports perspective. We'll show you guys one more graph in the last minute that we have, and then that's going to be it for our things, okay? The very, very last thing is a concept of what we call power. Power is a biomechanical or it's a physics issue. Power is force multiplied by velocity, okay? Power is the application of strength at a certain speed, okay? Power is what lets you run fast, jump high, throw a ball very, very hard, okay? Generate whip in a golf club or a tennis racket or whatever it is that you're doing. And so power looks like this. So here is force and velocity, right? The solid line is what we see that as we get away from isometric, as velocity increases, force goes down. But then power is this dash line. And so, right, when velocity is zero, power is zero because it's math. Okay. But optimum power production in most people is at about 1/3 of max velocity. So it's at about 2/3 of maximal force. We can shift this thing around with some training, again, using fast and slow training, using eccentrics and some of these kinds. So this is an inherent property, though, of fiber type. Here's the power curve for fast twitch. They're calling it B, it's really X in red. Fast twitch A in blue, and slow twitch here. Any of you guys want to know why you cannot jump? It'll be neat. I'm a slow twitcher. It's not my fault. I can wear all the shoes and do all the squats and the power cleans because I have. That was a football coach. All those things. I get a little bit better, but I cannot overcome my fiber type. I am a slow twitch. I'm meant to be more of an endurance athlete, right? I can only do so much. Was the best 4-step hurdler in our conference in junior high, and I quit, right? But I mean, I do not have the power to be able to take only 3 steps between hurdles. I could only run so fast on those kinds of things. I was just screwed because I'm short and I'm a slow twitcher. They're like, you need to go run distance, and I'm like, fuck that, no. I'm out, okay? So that's one of those things. People that sprint, people that jump high, have a lot of power. And a lot of it is just simply because of fiber. Okay? Their myosin ATPase lets them generate force at a faster velocity. And therefore that lets them have more power. And we can train that a little bit. We can train the neuromuscular system. We can train the brain to muscle side to get it turned on as fast as we can. But at some point, it's all going to come back to fibers. Okay? All right. Test Wednesday. If we do a Zoom study session tomorrow night, what works, guys? 8, 8:30. I'm not staying up past 9:30. I'm sorry.
Or 7:30.
Eight, y'all do eight? Okay, I will send a Zoom link, also, I will record it and post it on the YouTube channel for those of you that can't make it. You're gonna watch it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay? If you have questions between now and then, please email me, text me, come by my office. Okay, I can't help if I don't know what you're doing. All right, see you Wednesday.